Have you ever paused in front of the mirror and thought to yourself, when did I become this version of me? It's not a bad thing, just unexpected. The person staring back has a familiar soul, but a face that's quietly changed over time. A softer jawline, lines near the eyes, a different kind of energy behind the gaze. Aging isn't just something that happens to the body. It's something that reshapes how we experience the world, moment by moment. Before we jump in, if you're someone who enjoys diving into life's deeper layers, the joys, the pain, the quiet realizations, subscribe. This space is for all of us navigating life honestly. Let's begin with the obvious, the changes we feel in our bodies. There was a time when pulling an all-nighter was a minor inconvenience. You'd crash for a few hours and bounce back like nothing happened. Now, one late night can throw off your rhythm for days. The metabolism slows, your back talks back, and even your knees seem to comment on the weather before the forecast does. You stretch, not as a warm-up for a workout, but because your body simply needs it to move. A short walk feels longer. Stairs? They're now a negotiation. You start to realize how much you took for granted, the ability to run, lift, recover, all without a second thought. And yet, strangely, there's a new kind of appreciation for your body, not for how it looks, but for all it's carried you through. Even with its new limitations, it's still yours. Energy shifts in ways you never expected. You once moved through your day without caffeine. Now, that first cup of coffee feels sacred, a ritual to wake up both body and soul. You used to pack your schedule without blinking. Now, you look at plans and think, do I really need to go? But here's the thing, your mind, in many ways, feels untouched. It still dreams. It still imagines versions of your life you haven't lived yet. There's a frustrating tension between that inner fire and a body that's lost some of its spark. You want to do more, be more, but you move slower. You rest more often. You say no more than you used to, and sometimes that feels like a loss. But it's also a shift in how you define what matters. You're not chasing adrenaline anymore. You're chasing presence, peace, a life that feels sustainable. Getting older doesn't just change how we feel physically. It carves away at our emotional landscape too. You carry more stories now, some that lift you, others that still sting. There's grief woven into the background, a slow recognition that some people and dreams will never come back. Friends who were once everything have faded into the past. Loved ones have been lost. Plans you were so sure of never quite materialized. These things leave invisible weight. They don't crush you, but you feel them in the quiet moments. A song, a scent, a memory. Suddenly, you're back in a different chapter. There's a maturity that grows from this, a kind of depth that only time and heartache can teach. You don't cry as easily, but when you do, it's for something real. Let's take a moment to talk about something we all carry but rarely speak of out loud: regret. As you get older, life quiets down just enough to hear the echoes of choices, the ones you made and the ones you didn't. You start to wonder about the roads you didn't take, the doors you never opened, the risks you walked away from because fear whispered louder than curiosity. Maybe you stayed in a job because it was safe, even though a part of you longed for something more creative, more fulfilling. Maybe you chose stability over adventure, or love over freedom, or freedom over love. And now, looking back, those decisions feel heavier than they once did. There's that lingering question, what if I had just tried? You think about the relationships that slipped away, people you hurt or people who hurt you, and how pride, time, or timing kept you from healing the rift. You remember moments when you stayed silent when you should have spoken up, or spoke too sharply when gentleness was needed. Some regrets are loud, others are quiet, like a hum in the background that never quite fades. You might regret not being more present with your kids when they were young, or not calling your parents more often. You might regret letting years pass without pursuing the passion that lit you up inside. But here's the truth. Regret doesn't mean you failed. It means you've lived. It means you've grown. It means you've gained enough perspective to understand the cost of your choices. And while you can't rewrite the past, you can learn from it. You can use those reflections to shape how you show up now. You still have time. Time to be kinder. Time to make that phone call. Time to start that project, to apologize, to reconnect, to take a risk you once avoided. You can't go back and change your 20s or 30s, but you can change tomorrow. You can rewrite the ending. Sometimes we think of life like a mountain with a peak, that if we haven't made it by a certain age, we've missed our chance. But in truth, life is more like a garden. There are seasons for blooming and seasons for pruning and planting again. Maybe this season you plant a new dream. Maybe you make peace with the version of yourself who didn't know any better. Maybe you forgive yourself, not just for what you did, but for what you didn't do. Reflection is powerful, but only if we use it to move forward with purpose. So the next time regret comes knocking, don't let it chain you to the past. Let it remind you that you're still becoming, and it's never too late to choose differently. Let's talk about what the world expects of us. There's an invisible timeline that whispers, you should have it all figured out by now. A career, a partner, a family, a mortgage, and if you don't, it can feel like you've fallen behind. But here's the truth. Everyone is figuring it out, no matter their age. Some people peak at 25, others bloom at 50. Life doesn't follow a script. And the more you live, the more you realize how many people are just winging it. With grace, fear, and a whole lot of improvisation. Relationships change too. Your social circle may shrink. People move, grow apart, or simply disappear. You learn that friendship in adulthood takes effort, intentional effort. You have fewer spontaneous hangouts and more scheduled phone calls. You text more than you talk. And sometimes you go months without really connecting. Loneliness becomes more familiar. You might miss the deep, effortless friendships you had in your 20s, but if you're lucky, you've kept a few soul-level connections. Even one true friend can anchor you. And if you haven't found that yet, know this: it's never too late to create meaningful connection. Now let's talk about comparison. It's easier than ever to feel like you're falling short. Every scroll through your phone can trigger that inner critic. You see people posting highlight reels, vacations, promotions, fitness milestones. You forget that you're only seeing their best moments. You don't see their doubts, their bills, their quiet nights of questioning. It's human to compare, but it's also harmful because your journey is your own. Your joy might not look like theirs. Your path might not be glamorous, but it's real, and it's worth celebrating. Here's the good news. Aging, for all its aches and losses, brings a new kind of beauty. You start to care less about what doesn't matter You become braver about saying no, wiser about where you put your energy. You begin to see joy in the little things: a morning walk, a quiet dinner, a kind conversation. You no longer chase approval, you chase a meaning. And that shift, it's powerful. You learn to embrace the present with all its flaws. You stop striving for perfection and instead reach for peace. So here we are, older, maybe a little more tired, a little more honest, but also stronger, richer in experience, deeper in love, and more grounded in who we are. Aging is not a flaw. It's not a failure. It's a process, a privilege. It teaches you to live in ways you never knew when you were younger. And even when it's hard, it's a journey filled with unexpected grace. So to you listening, if you're wrestling with the changes, if you're wondering if you're behind, if you're quietly mourning the past, know that you're not alone. We're all walking this path. Some days with confidence, some days with questions, but we're walking it together. If this message resonated with you, subscribe, share, and stay connected, because aging may be inevitable, but how we embrace it, that's entirely up to us. Here's to the road ahead, to the lessons, the laughter, and the life still waiting to be lived.